Clover Kids, welcome to May Artlet to Go. This is our last Clover Kids session for this spring. So we are going to do something that you guys will be able to do all summer because you have your direction sheet and this video will be posted to YouTube. So we are going to make sidewalk chalk today. So you're going to need your regular Artlet to Go bag and your May Artlet to Go bag that's in your regular Artlet to Go bag. And then inside of that you'll have a direction sheet that's going to walk us through the steps and keep this so you can do it later. We're also going to need a toilet paper roll, which is in your May Artlet to Go bag, duct tape, a spoon, some water, a cup or a container to mix your chalk in, and then what we call a mess mat. So it could be a paper plate, a newspaper, something that you can leave your chalk in for a few days to let it dry. Then just make sure you have all the stuff in your May Artlet to Go bag and we are going to be good to go. Let's get started. The first supplies that you are going to need are your toilet paper roll and your duct tape. If you don't have duct tape, that's okay. You just want to find some stronger, thicker tape to use. And you might also need a scissors to cut the duct tape because it can be tricky to rip. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take the duct tape and we're going to rip 3 sections about this big. And then we are going to take the duct tape, and we are going to put it over one end of our toilet paper tube. So if we were to look through it, duct tape should be covering one end completely. We shouldn't be able to see any light. So that's why we're going to do 3 different squares of duct tape. So 1, then we're going to put the other one on going the other direction, 2, then squeeze it over the top. Make sure it's nice and snug. And 3. And this one you can put wherever it needs to go. If you see any light that's coming through, if you look through it, where that needs to go. Make sure it's nice and snug. Squeeze it on there. And now we're ready to move on to the next step. So next we are going to grab our May Artlet to Go bag and we are going to grab the wax paper that's inside. So we're going to need our toilet paper tube for this and the wax paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll up the wax paper to fit inside of our toilet paper tube. So it's kind of tricky. Might need a parent's help to get this. But you're going to roll up the wax paper tube so it looks almost like a telescope. You can look through it. And if you need to put some tape on it to secure it, you can do that. But once you have that, we're going to stick that wax paper in the open end of our toilet paper tube. So give it a nice shove. You might have to work it down in there. But it should look like that. You should be able to see an area in the bottom where you can pour things into, maybe like sidewalk chalk. But it should cover the complete circle of the toilet paper tube just like this. Now we're going to start getting a little bit more messier with our sidewalk chalk. So you're going to need your container that you can throw away or your parents don't really care if you get messy. And you're also going to need some water. The directions say warm water, but if you don't have warm water with you right now, that's okay. Just use water, whatever you have. And then we're also going to need this container called Plaster of Paris. So we are going to be making 2 sidewalk chalks, or you will be making 2 sidewalk chalks with the supplies that you have in your May Artlet to Go bag kit. So we're not going to use all of this, but what we're going to do, we are going to take a plastic spoon to start, and we are going to kind of separate this, and it's really messy, so if you spill on your pants, that's okay, but it is messy. We're going to separate this into what we think would be halves. So with your spoon, kind of separate it, because we're going to come back to this in just a second. So separate it to what looks like half. Now we're going to go back to our cup and our water. We're going to pour just a little bit of water. You won't need very much, so I poured about this much water into my cup. Won't need very much. It's always better to add more water later than to start with too much water now because we only have so much of this plaster of Paris. So now we are going to take that half that we just sectioned, and we're going to pour half of the plaster of Paris in this big container into the water. Might take a second. Dump it all in there. If you make a mess, that's okay. But we're going to pour about half of the plaster of Paris into our water container. And then we're going to give it a stir. Stir it up really nice so it's all mixed together. Now this is actually what our sidewalk chalk is going to turn into. I know right now it looks kind of milky and watery, but this eventually will be sidewalk chalk. So if you didn't use all your half of plaster of Paris, go back in, grab the rest of it, mix it into our chalk, or our container. And now this will start to harden, so we kind of have to work a little quickly, but we're ready to move on to the next step. Now we're going to get really messy. So you're going to want to make sure that your mixture is over your mess mat or your paper plate or whatever you want to call it. And I want you all to grab one color of your paint that was in your May Artlet to Go bag. You should have 2 of them. So what we're going to do is we are going to add the paint to our mixture. So we're just going to squeeze it all out into the mixture. And this part gets really messy, so you might need some paper towels too. Get as much as you can of the paint. Make sure you're doing this over your mess mat, so we're not getting it all over the place. Your parents would not be happy about that. But once you have all the paint that you can get out of the plastic baggie, set that on your mess mat and mix the paint. And if your chalk has already started to harden, just mix a little bit more to make sure it gets mixed evenly throughout. It takes a minute to get it all mixed up. As you can see, I use the yellow. Make sure it's all mixed up. Once it's all mixed up, set your spoon on your mess mat and grab your toilet paper roll, and we are going to move on to almost the final step. So go ahead and grab that. Now that you have your cardboard tube and your chalk mixture all mixed together, we are going to add our chalk mixture into the tube to make our chalk. So you are going to, over your mess mat, if it's thick enough to pour, or too thick to pour, you can use a spoon, but you're going to pour your mixture into the center of the toilet paper tube like this, carefully over your mess mat. And it might not fill the entire tube, and that's okay. It'll still make a lot of chalk. Now comes the not so fun part. We're going to put this in the garbage right away once we have all the mixture out. And we're going to set this on our mess mat. But the not fun part is this chalk needs to sit up for at least a day, maybe 2 days. So in 2 days or a day, come back, and this chalk should be good to go. So I'm going to grab an example to show you all of what your chalk will look like. So in 2 to 3 days, when you come back to check your chalk, you're going to either rip the toilet paper tube or take out the wax paper carefully, but your chalk will look like this. So as you can see, I already used mine on the sidewalk, so that's why it's got that little dent in it. But it's a very nice, thick piece of chalk that you can use all over your sidewalks. So it turns out pretty great, and because you have the instructions on how to make it, you can make it over and over again this summer. You can buy the materials at the store and make this lots and lots of times. How fun is that? You made your own chalk today. So that concludes our Clover Kids for the rest of the year until fall. Thank you so much all for joining and participating in the Artlet to Go sessions. I know that this year with virtual it was a little bit different than it ever been before, but you all did so great getting on Zoom virtually once a month and participating in all the different art activities that we did. I had so much fun with you guys, and I can't wait to see you all again in the fall. Thank you guys. Bye. Have a great summer. Bye.